Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the only Commando character guide you'll ever need. Today, I will be explaining how to play Commando from Risk of Rain 2. I'm going to do this for every single survivor, so if there is one that you want to see in particular, let me know who I should do next. And don't worry, I have over 1,700 hours in this game, and I've completed Eclipse 8 on Commando, so I got some tips for you. So Commando is the very first character that comes unlocked in the game by default, which is kind of a scam for all you guys, because Commando is pretty easily a bottom 3 survivor in terms of strength. You see, there are 3 different types of survivors in Risk of Rain 2, and those are proc, burst, and hybrid. Commando lands firmly in the proc category, meaning the base damage is really low, but the ability to trigger on-hit effects is where the power comes from. So let's start off by going through the abilities. Commando only has one primary, which is just 2 automatic pistols that deal 100% damage. I will be using the base loadout today, which is unlocked by default, so let's go through that first. The base secondary is Phase Round. It is a small blast that pierces enemies, getting stronger the more enemies it hits. The base utility is the tactical roll. You roll a short distance, which really isn't that much faster than sprinting. And the base special is suppressive fire, which is essentially just using your primary a little bit faster with the addition of a stun. The alternate secondary is Phase Blast. You shoot a shotgun-like blast 2 times at short range. The alternate utility is Tactical Slide. You slide on the ground for a pretty significant distance or do a short dash in the air. The alternate special is Frag Grenade. You have 2 grenades that you can throw for 400% damage that explode in a small radius. Now let me preface the next part by saying, as long as you are having fun, there is no wrong way to play any survivor. However, I'm going to give you the optimal build for the most possible success. In terms of the secondary, I've heard pieces about both. Some people like Round, some people like Blast. I prefer Blast, but this really is just a personal choice and is not going to make or break your run. The rest of the kit is not the same story. It is widely regarded by me and many others that Tactical Slide beats Tactical Roll 10 times out of 10. It's faster and you go a farther distance, and it's just more satisfying to use. That's also the case with Frag Grenade. Frag Grenade can proc bands with 400% damage and just out damages suppressive fire, which is really just your M1, and if you have one stun grenade, you essentially don't need to use it. So I'm a fan of the full alternate kit, but if you want to use Phase Round, by all means, it's not going to make your runs harder. That being said, today I am using the full base loadout, just for those of you who maybe haven't unlocked anything, so you can see that in real time. And to show you that it is completely viable to win on any loadout in Monsoon on any character. Also, make sure to stick around to the end of the video where I go through some specific tips on some of these abilities that are going to make your runs great. So what is Commando good at? And what is Commando bad at? Well, one of Commando's biggest strengths is the ability to proc. Now, I'm going to get a little bit technical here, so try to stay with me, but every single ability and item in the game that can trigger something has a % chance to do it. Like the ATG has a 10% chance to fire. However, that's not the whole story. You see, every ability in the game also has what's known as a proc coefficient. A 1.0 coefficient means that the number stays true. There is a 10% chance for an ATG to fire. But if an ability has a 0.5 proc coefficient, that is multiplied by the 10% of the ATG, meaning a survivor with a 0.5 proc coefficient only has a 5% chance to proc an ATG on every bullet. So survivors like Huntress, Multi, and Rex all have a lower than 1.0 proc coefficient. Commando has a 1.0, meaning this high fire rate survivor has a true 10% chance to hit an ATG on every bullet. And this goes for every sort of proc item: a ukulele, an ATG, a sticky bomb, a tri-tip dagger. And that is where Commando shines. Big proc chains, and building things like bleed or needle tick on enemies. Long story short, if you can shoot one enemy for a long time, it's going to die really fast with Commando. But on the flip side, Commando's weakness is mostly his AoE. Commando doesn't really have any sort of area of effect attacks. Again, he's very single target based. That's why I prefer Frag Grenade. There's a little bit of AoE built into the kit. But with Commando, you're going to have to be extra careful to get Gasoline, Will-O-Wisp, any sort of other AoE items to deal with large groups. This is also the reason some people like phase round over phase blast. I like the close-up damage, but a lot of people like the possibility of dealing with lines of enemies. So we have a stone titan here, and we have 1 bleed and 1 crit and 1 armor piercing round, so this shouldn't be too difficult for me. But Commando is meant for mid-range. I am right now pretty close, which is probably the best way to play Commando a lot of the time. He does have pretty significant damage fall off, and I'll show you if I get a chance in a little bit what I mean by that. So you'll notice on all these, I'm doing about 26 damage per hit. 26, 26, 26, 26, 26. But if I try to shoot an enemy really far away, that damage falls off really quickly. Like from this distance, I'm only doing 21 to 22 points of damage, and that's at mid-range. So you want to be about this distance from most enemies you're fighting to get that maximum damage possible. Which means Commando does benefit from items like Focus Crystal. You can see that damage fall off here. I'm only doing 13 damage from this distance. I'm only doing 50% of my max damage when I'm this far away. So make sure you're close enough to make that damage worth it, otherwise enemies are going to be quite difficult to kill. Most of your Commando gameplay is going to be holding down your primary the whole time. The only thing to keep in mind when you're holding it down, you cannot sprint. You can see I'm trying to, it will automatically stop your sprint. So the best way to play is to sprint around, shoot for a little bit, sprint and jump, shoot for a little bit, and keep up that pattern. One thing about Commando, though he may be weak, his cooldowns are pretty small, so as long as you're consistently cycling through them, you should be able to keep up. Now, if you have watched any sort of tier lists in terms of items, some items are really good in general, and some items are more good on specific characters. 57 Leaf Clover, for example, is a really good item on Commando because he is a proc survivor. So in a perfect world, you're looking for proc items like ATG, Sticky Bomb, or Bleed, you're looking for attack speed items like Syringe or Mocha, and you're looking for AoE like Gasoline, Will-O-Wisp, or Sentient Meat Hook. And if you find a Clover, you win. Now that we're on stage 2 and have looted a little bit, we have 3 bleed, which is incredible. I'm just gonna kind of run you through a stage 2. You can just watch this live a little bit to get a sense of how Commando plays. It's a lot of movement, staying away from enemies, walking in a circle, which doesn't differ that much from how you should play everyone. Always move in a circle, never stay in one spot, but Commando especially, because that damage is relatively low, so you deal with an enemy, move around, deal with another enemy, move around, just so he doesn't get stuck in one spot. I'm gonna hit a mountain shrine just to show you what it looks like when you're kind of behind, because the double boss on stage 2 with the poor loadout of Commando is going to be a little bit tricky, so you can watch how I get through it. We just got a Hopoo Feather, which is extremely helpful for Commando, because it's best to be near enemies. Commando is, funny, I said mid-range earlier, it really is kind of a close range compared to most survivors. So being up in there, having 1 extra jump to be able to avoid attacks is super helpful. Alright, let's hit this teleporter and see what we can do with Commando. We have a bunch of bad enemies here already, and it is a Clay Dune Strider, which is one of my least favorite enemies in the game. So this will be a great learning experience for you and me, but we can see that bleed already coming in really big. We have 15 stacks of bleed. I immediately have taken a lot of damage, and now I gotta relax. We take a break, we've done some damage, now we have to stay out, heal a little bit, and be smart. That's a lot of how Commando plays. Kind of weak, so you're not gonna be able to burst through and deal 1 bit of damage immediately. You have to deal with an enemy, wait for a good opportunity, leave, come back in. It's a lot of positioning and moving around. And using my second jump is very helpful, especially with beetle guards all over the ground. I need to be able to hop everywhere. Staying above all the enemies that are in all these bad spots is very important, but we have a very tough teleporter to deal with. Now that we've made some room, we've healed up a little bit, we got 2 healing drones, which are saving our lives, we can go back into dealing a little more damage. One of my biggest pitfalls right now is we don't have any AoE at all, except for a little bit of razor wire, which is bad at best. A Gasoline, a Will-O-Wisp, anything that would help me in the AoE department would be extremely beneficial right now, but it just means we have to take a little bit of extra time with this teleporter instead of going all in. But we've almost completed it, we got it, we keep getting our items taken away, but it doesn't matter, we're given a leeching seed and a mired urn, and we did get through it. So as you can tell, Commando takes a lot of patience. It's a lot of knowing when to go in and when to go out. Some survivors, you can just stay in and be really aggressive, and you can heal off your own attacks. Commando is not like that. We have another Mountain Shrine teleporter with very little AoE, so again, we're gonna have, kind of a difficult time. But again, a great learning experience. We're going to send a Goobo over there, and now, whoa, we just need to be smart. Commando is less about power and more about intelligence. So as long as I'm staying away from a lot of enemies, we're using the items at our disposal. I have a DLC item called Network Suffering, and I'm using that as best I can. The bleed is actually helpful because I have Razor Wire, and that's doing a lot of AoE for me, but I'm using all my abilities right about when they come off cooldown, dealing with threats while I can. The Imp Overlords are my biggest worry, so I'm dealing with them first while avoiding all the beetles and beetle guards on the ground, and the Imp Overlords are now down, so now we can deal with the Amalgamators over here. Honestly, wasn't quite as scary or as difficult as I thought it was going to be, because our bleed build is actually pretty solid with 3 Mocha and 3 bleed. It's kind of better than I expected it to be at this point. So as long as we're always moving in a circle, staying away from scary attacks, and getting good items like Noxious Thorn for more bleed and bleed spread, that's one of the best items you can get. Again, a DLC item, but an incredible Commando item that spreads bleed to other enemies. Commando's whole build, if you can make it bleed, you're going to clear areas pretty well. Now on stage 4, there's not going to be much to talk about, but the enemies, of course, get more difficult, and so it's all about spacing. I'm bringing the worm to me because I see there are elite Elder Lemurians over here. I'm now going to try to get rid of the smaller of the Lemurians, which I did, and now I have the one biggest threat to deal with. I can Suppressive Fire to stun it, get the Guillotine to get the final kill, and now I can relax for a little while looking for the next biggest threat. And also, how you deal with enemies is going to change based on your build. If your build is very heavy AoE, but not very good single target damage, you may want to let enemies build up a little bit before going in. If your build is very focused on one enemy at a time, you don't want to let enemies build up because then you'll get overrun. Now, there is a scrapper on this stage, and so once this stage is over, I am going to go scrap some of my items and talk more about what items I currently have that are good and which ones that I really don't need at all. We just picked up a ukulele, which pretty much means we are set. Ukulele is going to be the AoE we need, and it's a 25% chance to proc, and Commando is going to help that immensely. And now with the build we have, I did another mountain shrine, and this should be a much easier teleporter to complete. We are given Stone Titans, but I can just send out my Goobos. Ooh, this is going to hurt a lot, though. This is probably a bad situation to be in, but luckily we had a little bit of extra protection. Again, that positioning is important, and I did poorly there, but our damage is good enough, and our defense was definitely good enough, so we are able to make it through. Now we can take a peek at our scrapper and take a look at our items. We can see what we need and what we don't need. So there are some items that are just generally bad and I'm not going to use, like Leeching Seed or Harvester Scythe. But there are some items that are not good on Commando, like Crowbar. So the important items we need are Bleed, Crit, our Network Suffering. Substandard Duplicator can go, but our movement speed is nice. There's not much else I'm going to scrap here. I might get rid of Roll of Pennies, Bolstering Lantern potentially. I think that is it. All the rest of the items we have are great. Ignition Tank is here in case we find Gasoline. Crit and Armor Piercing rounds are there for damage. The Bleed and Mocha is there for bleed and movement speed. Feather's great. Fuel Cell is helpful. We have more speed, more AoE, some utility items, Noxious Thorn. We have our Watch for extra damage, Death Mark for extra damage, some more AoE, a little bit of healing, and we are in business. And we have arrived on Helminth Hatchery to show you how good the build is right now, even just with the minimal items we have. I'm going to hit a Combat Shrine off the bat, and I'll show you just how quickly we can take down a Magma Worm in 52 minutes of playing as Commando. One is down, this one's already about halfway down. There are other bosses on the stage. At this point in the game, our run is pretty much set. Everything we get on this stage will just be the cherry on top, and we are given an ATG towards the end of our stage. That is going to pretty much round out everything we need, an ATG being a % chance to hit and a pretty good amount of damage at that. Commando makes great use of it, and this Mithrix fight should be relatively straightforward. We're going to hit another mountain shrine. We've had one at every stage, so you're really getting a good idea of what a difficult Commando run looks like, but we do have a really good build at this point, so I think everything is evened out. Alright, and let's do our final teleporter of the run before we head to the moon, and I show you the Mithrix fight. We're given an overloading worm, so if we get a charged perforator, we are very much in GG territory. Now, the big part of this, especially on stage 5, is just staying in the air as much as you can, always moving. The overloading worm is down. We are given the charged perforator and a rose buckler, 2 very solid items. Charged perforator is crazy, so I'm just gonna jump around, keep moving, kill all the enemies in teleporter, and we will have ourselves a fight with Mithrix. And here we are. I did switch my equipment for eggs so we could pillar skip. If you didn't know, you can skip doing pillars altogether as long as you have a way to get up there. You don't have to charge the pillars. You can just go straight up, which I will do. But if I had to do pillars, the strategy does not change. Stay moving, stay shooting, stay jumping. I mean, you can't make this up. We have 2 red scrap to go into a ton of bleed, which is genuinely the perfect thing. Puts me to I think 100% bleed chance because Noxious Thorn gives us 10 and 9 tri-tip daggers gives us the rest. So again, you do not need to do pillars to get up here. You can just go up the tree if you have an equipment or an ability that does so. As you can see, we can just get right up here and go directly in. And now we'll go through the Mithrix Fight. I'll try to talk my way through it as we go about it, but it's going to be pretty similar for every survivor, keeping the right distance, saving your utility or movement ability for the right moment, and doing as much damage as you can as fast as you can. So as long as I'm about this distance from Mithrix, we should be fine. I have my egg if things get really out of control, and I have my shift if need be. And I actually got a temporary hard light afterburner, which gives me 2 more uses of it, so we have a ton of movement to use here. But I want to stay about this far away, just far enough so that when he does his like slice attack, his dash swing, he can't hit me. Now he might do a double and hit me 1 time, but I have enough defense where I'm not worried. But just enough distance to keep my damage fall off okay, but see how when he swings at me, he just misses? That's the distance you want. Again, always using my jumps. I'm essentially always double jumping. Against Mithrix, I'm not, and I'll show you in phase 3 what I mean. I'm always double jumping here to stay in the air, but if you have a feather, on phase 3, I would not do that. Save your jump for if you need it. Right now, I'm fine without jumping at all. Try not to jump unless you need to. Jumping over shockwaves is really important, so if I jump too early and he swings at me, I can't jump over the shockwave without a feather. So I'm staying far away, always making sure I have at least 1 extra jump just in case, and I'm dealing with the adds as they come in. You don't want that to build up too intensely. He's going to pizza here, so I'm going to stay nearby, and I want to be as close as I can with Commando. 1, for the damage fall off, but 2, it's very easy to avoid pizza when you are close to Mithrix, and the damage coming through, really great. We have a lot of high damage. I run away because I got hit, and I don't want to risk anything else because I have an item that saves me from the first hit I take every 15 seconds. So really playing it safe, and let's see what we can do for phase 4. We are going to have to deal with it. Normally he is going to take our items, but we should be able to defeat him. Now Commando phase 4, you want to keep about this much distance. It's not a ton of damage fall off, but it's far away enough where his attacks aren't going to do too much. Use everything you have right at the beginning to get some stuff back, and now start to sprint. As long as he doesn't shoot at you with his primary little spike gun, you should be okay. And that was actually a very quick phase 4. Now for a couple of final tips to use in your Commando gameplay. The first being that the phase blast is much more efficient at close range. Trying to hit an enemy far away does a lot less damage because of the shotgun radius. Another helpful piece of information is that both utility abilities do cancel fall damage. Fall damage is very real in this game, but you can cancel all of that fall damage by using your utility toward the ground, and you won't take any damage at all. Another important piece of information is you can't shoot while sprinting. If I try to sprint and I shoot, it'll stop me from sprinting every time. But I can shoot while sliding. It's a pretty small tip, but you can slide and shoot at the same time, which can be very helpful as you're circling around enemies. It's also important to note this also works with the roll. The last piece of information is the grenade. If you try to throw the grenade at enemies, oftentimes it's going to do that. You are going to throw it way too far and miss. It's a big reason why people don't generally like grenade. The best way to use grenade is to throw it at the floor. It stops it a lot sooner, and sometimes it'll bounce onto an enemy like a stone golem's leg and do damage right at their feet. Throwing the grenade directly at the ground makes aiming it a lot easier. And that is all I got for you all. My Commando guide is officially over. And if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments. And again, let me know who you want me to guide next. And let me know if there are any subjects in here I did not touch on, and I will be sure to add that going forward. And with all that being said, Thank you all for watching.